huh? You cannot you cannot really play on the factor of on time till things get mature and reach its stage. During residency, one of the things that every resident dream about and hunt for is a cataract surgery. Because you will finish your logbook, you will get more confidence in yourself, you are capable of doing a cataract surgery, and the hunting for cataract surgery even comes to the degree that we walked over in the weekend and on a Thursday. At that time, we come in the weekend for a resident clinic, and we look for cataract cases, and we get approval from our attending to do it. And if you really got 1 or 2 cases from your clinic, that's a marvelous achievement. But our staff is fussy, you know. They will not approve a case for surgery unless it's 200 or 2,400, and sometime you will be spending the whole weekend clinic with no yield. You did not book a case. You have really to submit a very unclear lens, so your attending approve it for you. And in the past, when I was resident, my cataract was unclear lens extracted for clear lesion, which is education. But I discovered that this eternal love for cataract continues even after I finish my logbook, even after I continued being certified. And I discovered that cataract now is a clear lens extracted for unclear reasons. Now there is another motive to do this cataract after you graduate, become staff, and maybe you work in a private institution. There is another motive to do this cataract, to the degree that maybe we coined this terminology as cataract is a malignant disease. If left untreated, it will metastasize in the pocket of your colleague. Short cases, short cases was very common in the quiz, sometime in mock exam, in year-to-year promotion. Sometimes we really make foolish mistakes and we miss a very clear diagnosis. Like this case, for example. You cannot miss this classical facial expression with ptosis and droopy face. And if the examiner asks you to talk to this patient, you will be able to spot it. This is a myotonia dystrophica. But he might help you by giving you additional picture, asking the patient to pull her tongue, or showing the picture of one of their infants because it's a congenital disease. And even if you fail, he will ask you to shake hand with the patient. But if one of the foolish comments made by one of the residents said, "What do you think the diagnosis of this case after shaking the hand of this patient?" The resident replied, "The patient is friendly." So, first year of residency and during basic science course, you receive a toxic dose of material. A toxic dose of slides exceed the LD50 of anything. So, and we did not learn very much in the undergraduate, so you have really to work hard, read, and after 5 or 6 lectures in the morning, you have to do another 4 or 5 hours of reading. So, in fact, everything around you gets painted with the ophthalmology. You don't sense anything except of ophthalmology and its terminology. For example, clouds will look like cotton wool spots. There are no more clouds. Stars is asteroid haloses. They are not stars. Even moon is a pale optic nerve. or bumps in the road is a corneal elevation. I mean, so much extensive dose of scientific material which really paint your life and make you interpret everything in a way. One of the favorite meetings in the courtyard of KKESH is an end of the day meeting between residents, and this is really a meeting of spreading gossip, exchanging stories, giving the report of what did you did this day. And sometimes you will find among your colleagues cheerful, happy, and very depressed. For example, Dr. Iman, very happy today because she did 2 squint surgeries, believe it or not. My attending was very generous, and I did 2 strabismus surgeries. And second colleague is again very happy, Saleh, did a trabeculectomy, and he sutured the way Tommy like, using 10-11-0 Prolene in a very neat way, and he is really very happy. Another guy, he is extremely depressed. The whole 8 hours was dropping BSS. So he was mebesbes. I mean, he was an aroused resident who couldn't reach to his target. I will conclude with I collected many smart, it's really not smart, it's a foolish medical student mistakes, but maybe I'll share with you one which really very interesting, and it's really very common in the quiz exam, where they will show you a bedridden patient. They will tell you this patient, his wife give him 10 cc of castor oil, and he's still constipated, he's in pain. What would you do? And a big pause. You don't know the answer. The examiner will say, look, he is old and he is bedridden. He wants to draw your attention that fecal mass can be treated by enema or BR, and you don't use laxative. But if you did not get the message, you will say, look, sir, a dose of 10 cc castor oil is not enough. I will give the patient 50 cc of castor oil to help him, and the examiner will pat your shoulder and say, my dear boy, 50 cc of castor oil will make you pass everything except your exam. So these really some memories I wanted to share. Thank you very much for giving you the opportunity, and bye-bye.
Those were wonderful memories and spoken so well. Definitely a memorable lecture in this symposium. I'm privileged to introduce Dr. Shiraz Daya, who is a chairman and medical director for the Center of Sight at East Grinstead, United Kingdom, and he will talk to us about lens surgery, past, present, and future. Dr. Daya.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and I'd like to thank the organizers, Dr. Abdul Aziz Al-Raji, and also Dr. Samuel Al-Swenem, for inviting me as a visiting professor this week, as well as, and also I've had the privilege of attending this conference and giving one of the first talks. I have some financial declarations. I work for a number of companies as an advisor. But for me, this is quite special. David Payton was my chairman. He gave me a break when I was a foreign medical graduate in the United States. And I've got to say, he's been a phenomenal mentor over the years and become a good friend. And we're in constant contact. I don't know if any of you have read his book, Second Sight. It's a wonderful read and very entertaining as well. So it's a great privilege to be here at KKESH and to celebrate in your successes. I must also add that I've spent the last couple of days with your residents and fellows, and I've been really, really impressed. You've got a lot to be proud of. The consultants here are certainly doing a really good job of training the fellows and residents. I've been a visiting professor to many places, and the KKESH ones are definitely amongst the best, so congratulations. Anyway, going on to my talk about lens surgery, the biggest cause of blindness is, as you know, cataract surgery. And as with advancing age and the demographic change, certainly in the industrialized world, is going to be a major problem in the future. But we're living in good times right now, and we need to acknowledge the past. So, as we know, the amount of visually impaired in the world is quite phenomenal, and cataract accounts for 51% of it. It has economic and social issues, and this is a common sight in Africa, where you see a child who should be in school leading an elderly person. The mortality of an elderly person with cataract is very, very high. The earliest documented cataract was it's probably in the 5th dynasty in Egypt. And there were also instruments found in Egypt in the past which suggest that cataract surgery was being done, and possibly intraocularly. There are some hieroglyphic images and others in different tombs that show something going on the eye over there. But the earliest recorded cataract was really couching, and in 2000 BC. And in those days, it's quite interesting, with King Hammurabi's code, there was actually means testing for payment for an eye operation. And basically, the richer you were, the more you paid. So some things are not new. Means testing is something that's coming into place in the industrialized world, and is certainly in place in places like India, and there's got to be some merit in it. In Japan, 2000 BC, there were some recordings of cataract surgery by sucking out hypermature cataracts. And there's some biblical references too. In the Apocrypha, there's a recording of bile from a fish gallbladder being inserted into the son of Tobit's into Tobit's eye, causing severe irritation and eye rubbing, and that actually cured his blindness. So here's a case of self-cataract surgery or self-couching. But in India is probably where a lot of this began. And as an ethnic Indian myself, as of great pride, the Sushtra, who did all sorts of surgery, including eye surgery and plastic surgery, wrote some treatises on surgery and talked about how a curved needle was used to it was not clear whether he was couching or whether he was actually expelling the lens, but there were some records of expulsion of contents of lenses. And they would use ghee, which is clarified butter, on the eye. And who knows whether this has antibacterial properties or not, but he did caution that this should only be used when absolutely necessary, in other words, when patients were completely blind. From India, the techniques went out west and also to the east to China, where they combined cataract surgery with acupuncture. Jinpi Shu was recorded in 200 BC, and there are a lot of recordings of progress in the west, in Greece and Rome. Now this happens in the modern day. This is in Senegal, where I suppose a charlatan, he just spat in that eye. And watch what he does with his treasured device. There's a little instrument that he puts into a little pen case. You know, that's his bread and butter. Cataract surgery in Senegal, which is a real pity, and I wonder how those people do. So moving into a slightly more modern age in the Middle East, been very important for the development of medicine overall. A 10th century Persian physician, Zakaria al-Razi, talked about sucking out contents, and it had to be done by individuals who had a great lung capacity to be able to suck out cataracts using a needle. And on from there, the modern age of enlightenment, we moved into the 18th century with Jacques Deville talking about the first extracapsular cataract procedure, and that really started to change the course of cataract surgery. Von Graefe came up with his modified linear extraction technique using a Von Graefe knife and introduced iridectomy. But to do cataract surgery, you needed drugs. Belladonna came along, as did cocaine anesthesia. And it's amazing how much cocaine disappeared from relatively modern eye units in the United States and in the United Kingdom too. This is the intracapsular cataract technique, which evolved further. Some significant ones were the use of chymotrypsin, alpha-chymotrypsin, as well as cryo-extraction. But the trouble is there were no lenses, and patients had to use pebble glasses or contact lenses in order to improve their vision. And then along came Sir Harold Ridley, and a British ophthalmologist, who observed in fighter pilots shards of windscreen, and they were inert. They did not react at all. And the thinking was every foreign body would react in the eye, but this did not. So he said, well, if I can make a lens out of this, we can actually get rid of these big pebble glasses. Well, he had incredible opposition, but went ahead. And this is one of the original Rayner lenses, which I actually have the privilege of owning, one of the first batch that Rayner kindly gave to me a couple of years ago when they opened their new factory. This is what the lens looked like. It looked like very much like a human lens. And this was a plus 24 diopter lens with a refractive index of 1.33 and quite large, just over 8 millimeters. This is the 6th operation that was performed by Harold Ridley at St. Thomas's Hospital. It's kind of abbreviated, but it gives you the idea as to what goes on. And for the junior members of in the audience, this is what cataract surgery was about. So they used to, in all cases, use a stay suture, and I'm not quite sure what was going on there. I'm far too young to know about these things. But you'll see the von Graefe knife, and this is horrific, going into the eye. And they used to have symposia on how to use a von Graefe knife. It seems pretty blunt to me, but they were considered very sharp knives in their day. And you sit there, and this is his capsulorhexis, or capsulotomy, and they express the lens. In Swahili, cataract is called mtoto wa macho, which means child of the eye. You can see why. And so many of you have probably not seen this sort of operation in the past, and this is extracapsular cataract extraction. And he's about to put this lens in, and then, whoops, it disappeared. I've done that many a time myself. And you can see the lens now going into the eye. And in those days, they didn't know too much about the endothelium and its necessity. And you can see him pushing on the cornea there, prodding it, trying to position that lens. And it seems kind of medieval. But that was ultra-modern surgery in 1948. And then they used great big black silk sutures to close the eye up. So that's where the first implants, that's how they were done. Then there's a whole flurry of development of implants. Everybody wanted their implant, and Peter Choice came up with a whole bunch of designs which are anterior chamber lenses. All these charlatans were kind of ostracized from the establishments all around Europe, and they formed their own little club called the Intraocular Implant Club, and they were founded in 1966. It has now become the International Intraocular Implant Club, and fairly well established and recognized. So with the development of the microscope, that surgery was done with loupes that you just saw, and there are 3 individuals who are given considerable credit for this: Barak Hare, Dermot Pierce, and Richard Troutman. Things changed, and the vogue was back to go to extracapsular cataract surgery. And then along came Charlie Kellman, who tried for many years to work out how to take a cataract through a small incision, and finally did it with this great big beast of a phaco machine called the Cavitron. Anyway, the cataract surgery was born, small incision cataract surgery was born, but the problem was there's not much adoption because there were no lenses that could be inserted through a small incision. Well, that changed, and now there are a variety of foldable lenses, and most of us will use foldable lenses to become the standard of care. And one of the transformations was the introduction of capsulorhexis by Howard Gimbel and Thomas Neuhan, both at the same time, and they wrote the first paper for this. And that also revolutionized cataract surgery in terms of intraocular lens placement, lack of tilt, and more predictable refractive outcomes. Nowadays, in moving into the present era, we have femtosecond lasers to do cataract surgery. It uses online OCT to perform perfect capsulotomy, and also lens fragmentation for the cataracts that need it. I have to say I enjoy doing the surgery. It takes the stress out of doing cataract surgery, and I've done over 5,000 cases now. One of the problems in the early days of femtosecond cataract surgery were lenses going to the back, and a lot of this was to do with fusion of the cortex to the anterior capsule. And Roberts in Australia described a couple of cases, and others kept quiet about their cases, but we knew this was a recognized problem. We developed quite by accident a method of hydrodissecting the lens, and this is called translenticular hydrodissection. There's a little cannula that we had devised with the help of Bausch & Lomb. And here I'm injecting fluid through the actual fragmented lens, and that produces hydrodissection and moves the lens very satisfactorily. And the same device can be used to chop the lens material. As you can see here, I think I should probably move this one along a little bit. And it makes the whole procedure, there's a lot of naysayers out there say cataract surgery takes longer with the femtosecond laser and so on. Actually, we found we're faster. We can put through 4 to 5 cases in an hour, whereas before it was only 3 cases. So that lens is nice and mobile, and when we insert a vacuum-based phaco, the lens follows beautifully into the port, as you'll observe right here. So this is like a pre-chop. This is done with a lens. Anyway, these are very expensive devices. They cost 400,000 euros, not affordable for the majority of cataract practices out there. But there are new solutions. This is a new device that's just received CE marking, where the capsule is stained with trypan blue, the eye is filled with viscoelastic, and then a laser is used, a dye-absorbing laser, and it creates a capsulotomy in, as you'll see, in 1 second. It could actually even be done in less than a quarter of a second. And that capsulotomy is extremely strong. You see the capsule being removed there. And this is some of the testing that we did on capsule strength. And you can see you can stretch that capsule almost from limbus to limbus without it breaking. So that looks very promising. And we've done our first 25 cases, and they all look very, very good. Why is it stronger? Because the heat probably, we believe it folds the capsule edge, so you've got a double edge, and there's amorphous collagen, which is more elastic and increases the strength of the capsule. So I expect that to be on every, I'm hopeful, on every single microscope, certainly in the modern world, within the next 5 to 10 years. So refractive surgery has now moved on to lens surgery. Lens refractive surgery, in other words, refractive surgery, getting patients out of glasses altogether, is not something new. This was talked about in the 18th century, and it was done for high myopes, but because of the unacceptable high rate of retinal detachment, it eventually got abandoned when they looked back. This is the power of doing audit on patients, not immediately after surgery, but many years after surgery. But it's all come back again. Now, there's an evolution of implants. The holy grail is getting a lens through a small incision so patients can see like they did when they were a child and without problems. So the variety of lenses that produce increased focus. There are accommodative lenses that have come and gone. I know there's some still exist. There's zone refractive lenses, diffractive lenses, and now a lot of excitement about extended depth of focus lenses. This is a refractive lens called the M+. It causes problems in terms of aberrations in patients, but they don't always see well, and they do complain of visual problems. The diffractive-based lenses uses the concept of the Huygens Fresnel principle, which looks at, and you've seen these Fresnel prisms that are used to straighten out images in eyes. Well, the first harmonic is a value that you like, and the second harmonic is double that amount. So, and a very interesting concept is the trifocal lens, where the overall lens is geared for distance vision. There are 2 diffractive structures that are put on top of each other. The first order is 3.5 diopters. The second order is 7 diopters, which means nothing. But on the intermediate side, the first order is 1.75 diopters. That provides good intermediate vision. But the second order is 3.5 diopters, so that picks up stray light and adds it to near vision. and improves near vision. So these are patients who have trifocal lenses. They provide good distance, intermediate and near vision. And we've been using this for the last 7 years with good outcomes. It's evolving further, and there'll be new developments that will be shown in time to come. This is the lens going in all these patients. Because the premium lenses, I put a capsular tension ring in to avoid tilt. The viscoelastic goes, the CTR has gone in, and here's the lens now being injected into the capsular bag. And I've got to say that we're fairly we educate our patients about this lens, and 95% of our patients, including my mother, have trifocal lenses. So this is really where we are presently. Well, some of us presently. I think others will definitely follow. So that's the lens in the bag. The EDOF concept, the extended depth of focus concept, it works. You know about when you have a smaller aperture, you've got increased depth of focus. When you have a larger aperture, you've got a minimal depth of focus. Well, there are lenses out there that extend the depth of focus, and they stretch out the corner of Stern. Their problems are they're purported to be halo-free, but that is not the case. 22% do have halos, and some also complain of poor quality vision. But it does much more forgiving than perhaps some of the lenses out there. But one of the other lenses that's very exciting is the IC8 lens, which I've used in patients with keratoconus and post-penetrating keratoplasty. But this concept of a pinhole, so basically patients are looking through a pinhole intraocular lens, it's not a new one. This is Choice's lens that he invented with Rayner in the 1960s. So it's amazing how we keep going back to the past. So the lenses on the horizon, well, accommodative lenses are really where we want to go to avoid all sorts of visual problems. This is the ACO lens with 2 elements. I've not heard too much about it. The new lens looks very promising, where vitreous pressure pushes a central silicone gel forward, and the report sit between 6 and 8 diopters of accommodation. The fluid vision lens is, I understand, in clinical trial right now, and this is where, again, accommodation pushes fluid from the periphery of the lens into the center of the lens, making it bigger and increasing the dioptric power. But the one lens I found quite exciting, and it's going through clinical trials right now, is LensGen. This is a 2-piece lens where this is the first lens going in. It's a very large capsule to hold a second lens, which is a fluid lens. So very much like the other fluid lens we talked about. And that's positioned, it looks like a very large contraption in the eye, and it probably takes fair surgical skill to insert consistently. And this is basically how it works. We know when the eye accommodates, the ciliary body contracts, the zonules relax, and the lens shrinks and increases anteroposteriorly. Well, this does much the same sort of thing. So as the ciliary body contracts and releases the zonules, the spring mechanism of the housing pushes that fluid lens and makes it, it increases anteroposterior diameter. So lens surgery has a long and history and a very exciting future. And I hope I've done much what David Duca did earlier on, which was honor the past and embracing the future, with the goals being inexpensive, safe cataract surgery, basic lasers and technology to make this reproducible, and hopefully we'll find lenses that provide a wide range of focus. Thank you for your attention, and also to my family who let me be here this week. Thank you.
It was a wonderful lecture. So without further ado, we're going to break now for prayer and lunch, and we will resume here at 1 o'clock, quarter past 1. Thank you. Enjoy. لا ده ايوه الفوتوز خليه يحط على طول لازم تطلع كله يطلعها